House Bill 1180 by Representative Bentley to create the Baby Olivia Act.
Representative Bentley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues, I have been waiting for 2 years to run this bill. It's something that I am really excited about. I went to a legislative conference and saw states of Tennessee and South Dakota and visited with those legislators and how they passed the Baby Olivia bill. And when I saw the video, I said, we have got to do this in Arkansas. I'm really excited. As a nurse, I've always been passionate about the human body and just love to see how God created our body. And just the eyeball fascinates me. I don't have to go farther than that to see how amazing our bodies are and how God created them. So before I get started, I'm going to read one of my favorite verses from Psalm 139, verse 13 through 15. You formed me in my innermost being, shaping my delicate inside and my intricate outside, and wove them all together in my mother's womb. I thank you, God, for making me so mysteriously complex. Everything you do is marvelously breathtaking. It simply amazes me to think about it. How thoroughly you know me, Lord. You even formed every bone in my body when you created me in the secret place. Carefully, skillfully, you shaped me from nothing to something. So when I worked at Children's Hospital years ago, back in the early 1980s, we had the first ultrasounds, and they were little tiny pixel things and little dots. And I was always amazed that the physicians could see an infant's heart and see how it was acting with those early ultrasounds. So they were so fuzzy you couldn't really see anything. Now we get to see our grandkids before they ever get here with 3D and 4D ultrasounds, and they're just fascinating to see how beautiful the babies are even before they get here. So that's really what kind of started. Since we have ultrasounds now, we can really see inside those mothers' wombs, which for years we could not. Now we have a whole new story we can tell to our kids. So Baby Olivia is a medically accurate animated glimpse of human life from the moment of fertilization. The story details Olivia's growth as she progresses from one development stage to the next in preparation for her continued life outside of the womb. Baby Olivia was created by Live Action in collaboration with a panel of medical doctors, including experts in embryonic fetal development. Dr. David Bollinger, Dr. Donna Harrison, Dr. Tara Sander Lee, Dr. Katrina Firth, Michelle Cretella, and Jeffrey Barrows, all with doctors of medical science, who each endorsed the project. In chronicle order, they portray Olivia's life. And it's important to note before I discuss and go through this, that the order of weeks of the baby start at fertilization. It does not start 2 weeks before. When you go to an obstetrician, the baby's date is based on your last menstrual period. Well, the baby's not created till 2 weeks later. So the Baby Olivia bill isn't a biological film of fetal development, but it starts at gestation or at fertilization, not the 2 weeks before. So people like ACOG will try to say, well, it's inaccurate. And I'm sorry. If you look on ACOG's website, you can see that ACOG believes that abortion is essential health care. ACOG believes that abortion saves lives. I'm not going to listen to something that ACOG tries to tell me on this film when they say it's inaccurate, because it portrays the weeks of baby Olivia from the moment of conception, not from 2 weeks before, from her mother's last menstrual period. So understand, when you hear people say that's inaccurate, it's not inaccurate. It's a biological film about fetal development from the moment of fertilization. Many of the development facts shared in Baby Olivia are sourced from the Endowment for Human Development, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving health science. Its website states that the Endowment for Human Development is committed to neutrality regarding all controversial bioethical issues. Our board of directors, board of advisors, staff, and volunteers includes accomplished educators, researchers, authors, programmers, and clinicians from a variety of scientific and business disciplines who share the common goal of improving lifelong health through prenatal development-based education. Science educators across the United States have endorsed the organization's award-winning content, including the National Geographic, who distributes their material. OB-certified OB-GYN Kathy Altman has said, Olivia is a spectacular and medically accurate portrayal of the development of a baby girl within the womb. It is based on information from the Endowment for Human Development, a highly respected scientific source on embryology and fetal development. Olivia draws back the curtain on the womb, giving us a realistic glimpse of the baby within. Each and every word, every image in this short video have the backing of experts in embryonic and fetal development. Let's go over just a few of the statements that they have in there. The very first words that you hear when you watch baby Olivia is, "This is the moment that life begins." This statement refers to fertilization. The Endowment for Human Development states, biologically speaking, fertilization or conception is the beginning of human development. The journal Nature stated in January 2010 issue, the life cycle of mammals begins when a sperm enters an egg. The textbook Patterns Foundation of Embryology states, the time of fertilization represents the starting point in the life history or ontology of the individual. So we know when it says that that's when life begins, that's when mammals begin, when the egg and the sperm get together. And then there's a flash of light. I think it's just amazing to me that God creates a flash of light when a human being is created. At fertilization, her gender, ethnicity, hair color, eye color, and countless traits are already determined. The Endowment of Human Development says the zygote contains 46 unique chromosomes with the entire genetic blueprint of a new individual. Science Daily notes that the sex of a baby is determined by a chromosome makeup at conception. An embryo with two X chromosomes will produce a girl, and an embryo with an XY combination results in a boy. I'm not going to read every one here because each one of them are backed up. We'll be here all day long. We've got some other bills to go over. So I want to talk about one more. Since I worked in the CVICU when I got to see baby hearts, I'm always fascinated by the baby's hearts. So at 3 weeks and 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, Olivia's heartbeat can be detected. The Endowment of Human Development states about 3 weeks, 1 day after fertilization, the heartbeat first begins to beat. Merck's manuals also stated the heart and major blood vessels begin to develop early by about day 16. Day 16 from fertilization. The heart begins to pump fluid through blood vessels by day 20, and the first red blood cells appear the very next day. In a 2020 study published by Journal Fetal Diagnosis and Therapy, Oxford-affiliated researchers wrote, by the end of gestation in week 3, passive oxygen diffusion becomes insufficient to support metabolism of the developing embryo, and thus the fetal heart becomes vital for oxygen and nutrient distribution. The initiation of the first heartbeat via the primitive heart tube begins at gestational age 22, followed by active fetal blood circulation by the end of week 4. So baby Olivia's story goes on to say about her arms developing, the arm buds, and then her hands and arms coming together. And I'll read one more because, again, we don't have all day. At the beginning of the 9th week, Olivia will have grown from a single cell into nearly 1 billion cells, and she is now called a fetus. She will suck her thumb and swallow and grasp an object, touch her face, sigh, and stretch. The Endowment of Human Development states 8 weeks marks the end of the embryonic period. During this time, the human embryo has grown from a single cell into nearly 1 billion cells. It also states by 9 weeks, thumb sucking begins and the fetus may swallow amniotic fluid. The fetus can also grasp an object, move his head forward and backward, open and close the jaw, move the tongue, sigh, and stretch. So from the moment of fertilization to 8 or 9 weeks, all those things are beginning. I'll talk about one more thing, quickening. Her mother first sensed Olivia's movement between 14 and 18 weeks. It's an event called quickening. The Endowment of Human Development states a pregnant woman first senses fetal development between 14 and 18 weeks. Traditionally, this event is called quickening. So it goes through each week, and it's just such a beautiful video. And I'll start with that. 27 weeks, her eyes are responding to light. She can recognize her parents' voices and will even recognize lullabies and stories. The Endowment for Human Development states the pupils dilate and constrict in response to light as early as 27 weeks. And right now, I have a little granddaughter who's 27 weeks, and her mom was getting an ultrasound today, so I'm pretty excited about her coming. By 20 weeks, the cochlea reaches adult size within the fully developed inner ear, and from now on, the fetus will respond to a growing medley of sounds. The fetus hears numerous sounds before birth, with the mother's voice and heartbeat dominating other sounds, and studies show that after months of listening to her mother's voice, the newborn prefers her voice to any other. The newborn also prefers female voices to male voices, and familiar lullabies heard before birth to new lullabies after birth. Newborns can distinguish between prose passages heard during the last 6 weeks of pregnancy from new passages providing additional evidence of an in utero memory formation and learning. So now let's go to the bill a little bit. We'll see that if you look at the first page, we are just adding requirements for certain human growth and development education. Human growth and development education that's used in this section. We'll discuss an oral, written, or digital lessons, lecture, or presentation regarding human biology as it relates to pregnancy and human development inside the womb. Each school district and open charter public school will incorporate a human growth and development discussion into an existing health and safety course beginning in the 5th grade. The human growth and development discussion required by the subject, which shall include a high definition ultrasound and the baby Olivia video. And so from there we go. Very simple bill, just simply adding some truth. I know some of you have been concerned about the age that we're talking about here with the 5th grade, but many 9-year-old girls are starting their period. If you'll talk to psychologists, child psychologists, it's very important for these kids to hear before all that begins what's going on with the human body. Kids are seeing so much already on their phones, they're hearing stuff in the bathroom. I want them to see some truth on really what's happening so they can have honest discussions. This is provided at absolutely no cost to the school. There's no financial obligations to the school, whatever. Live Action has granted a non-exclusive license to use the resource for educational purposes in perpetuity and at no cost. Live Action also provides the resources unbranded for educational purposes, so no child is going to see Live Action when they see baby Olivia. And I think we'll say that if a parent does not want this child to see the video, we already have statutes in place so they can be excused from seeing the video. There's nothing that forces a child to see the video. I just think it's some good, honest truth for parents to be able to see. And with that, I will take some questions if anybody has any questions.
Representative McCullough, for what purpose?
Question.
You're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Bentley, will you go back on that opt-out part that parents can do? Can you tell me exactly when will parents be notified? Will teachers notify parents? Can you kind of tell me about that process?
It's totally up to the schools, however the school wants to do it, just how they handle it with every other subject now. So it's in statute that parents can opt out. I'm not going to tell the school exactly when they should do it. I'll leave it up to the local school to decide how they want to handle it.
Representative McGee, for what purpose?
Question.
Recognized for a question.
Representative Bentley, you and I have talked about this. As a physician, when you do this video and they choose this date of moment of conception, are you not aware that conception can occur anytime? It can occur on the first day of a menstrual cycle. That's why the American Academy of Obstetrics and Gynecology and physicians around the country date that at the first day of their last menstrual cycle. So how can you make a statement that it always occurs 2 weeks after your period?
I didn't really. What I said was it starts at the moment. Whenever conception starts, that's when the video starts. So whenever the moment of conception occurs, that's when life begins. That's when the embryo starts. That's all I'm saying is that it starts when conception starts and not before.
Follow up.
You're recognized.
But the video is assuming that conception occurs at ovulation with 2 weeks after, approximately 2 weeks after the end of the last menstrual cycle. People can become pregnant the first day of their menstrual cycle. Anytime, there have been some very surprised parents at times when children come along like that. But what I'm saying is the video, I can't see how this follows anything that's follows the standard of medical practice by starting that at conception. That does not follow the standard of what doctors use to define when the conception occurred. And to me, could you comment on this? To me, that seems confusing to children or to parents who look at it and say, well, why does the doctor say that the fetal heartbeat is at 6 weeks and this says it's at 3 weeks? If we're going to give something to children, why don't we give them the right information based on accepted medical facts?
Again, this was developed by physicians, and I would say to you that as a mom, I watch human development of my kids, and children develop at different stages, right? I have one child that starts walking at 9 months, another one will start walking until 13 months. So every human development is different, every human body is different. Again, I just have to agree to disagree with you. The video says when conception occurs, it doesn't base anything on the mother, it doesn't even talk about the mother. It talks about the baby and the embryo development, the fetal development, and it was to again, developed by physicians. The American Association of Pro-Life OB-GYNs 100% support baby liver. And then they have tens of thousands of obstetricians across the nation that are 100% behind this video, including Dr. Kay Chandler, our Surgeon General. She thinks it follows exact science, and I would trust Kay Chandler.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, without any further questions, I will step aside. Somebody has pros and cons on it.
Representative Bentley has explained the bill. Would anyone like to speak against the bill? Representative McGee, for what purpose?
Against the bill.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, colleagues, I'm going to speak to this from several standpoints. One, as a physician, and then I want to speak to it for a couple of the problems I see in the bill that I think could be made better. And I visited with Representative Bentley about some of this, and then told her that if it stands as it is, I'm going to be a no on the bill. I like the concept of the bill. There's no doubt about that. I think anything we can do to educate our children is a great thing to do. I still have a problem with the dates they use. I know that there may be many pro-life obstetricians that say they don't have any problems with those dates. But when the kids go to school and they see this, and then they go out, and they're going to go out, and they're going to get on their phones, and they're going to YouTube this, and they're going to see other videos, and there's a lot of conflicting dates. I just think it should go with what is generally accepted medical standards for the date of the start of the pregnancy. Because that, I promise you, pregnancies can start on day one of a menstrual cycle. And they don't always start 2 weeks after the last menstrual cycle. That's the normal case, but they can occur anytime. So that's the problem I have. I don't really have a real problem with the video other than the dates and the way that that's presented. I talked to Representative Bentley about possibly allowing schools using different videos. If you get on YouTube tonight and look at them, there are a lot of great videos. One of the other things this bill doesn't address, or the video doesn't address at all, is what's going on with the mom. I mean, I think that's real important. There's one on YouTube now. It's about 3 minutes. Great. Lady goes through the same things. They don't even really talk about the dates that much. They talk more, show the video as the child is developing, but they're also talking about, the mother is also talking about what's going on with her. Why do they get morning sickness? When do they feel the first kicks of the baby? Why do all the hormonal changes occur so dramatically in the last trimester, and mom's irritable, or the husband needs to duck his head every once in a while, or why do they want to eat and gain weight and get dark splotches on their skin? I mean, there's a lot of more information that we could give these kids with different videos. Anyway, that's from the medical perspective. Now, just from the bill itself, some of the things that I really don't like is I don't like it starting in the 5th grade. Some people will argue, well, 5th graders ought to know it. Most people in education think that 6th grade is about the earliest time you should start having children see these types of videos. I'd like to see if the sponsor might get up and address that. I have a problem with it starting in the 5th grade. I prefer, if you're going to pick something, I would say 7th grade. That would be my personal choice, but even the experts say kids are probably mature enough and know enough that 6th grade would probably be okay. This mandates that all school districts show this video. There is no law in Arkansas that mandates anybody in any school give anything about sex education or pregnancy or anything. The only thing Arkansas law has is about sex education. The law says they have to emphasize abstinence. Anything else that they put in the programs in school, they can put. And many of the schools do a great job. They talk about important things, sexually transmitted diseases and abusive relationships and all those sorts of things, contraception, those kinds of things. But it's up to the school. And there are school districts in Arkansas that don't have any sexual education programs. But now they're going to have to show this video. I would prefer that schools still be allowed to have a choice in what they're showing their kids. that's really about all I have to say, I think, about it. Oh, the other thing about the opt-out, I'd really like to see, I don't think opt-out is a good way to do things. People need to opt in. I'll give you an example. EBD over here had an opt-out program on their retiree program. You had to opt out of one insurance to stay on the other. People found out 3 months later their insurance had been changed because they didn't opt out. It should go to the parents, say, your child, that'd be a whole new law, I guess, something different we could think about. Should say they should opt into the program. But anyway, I'll answer any questions if I can. If no questions, I'm done. Thank you.
Representative Beck, for what purpose?
Question.
You're recognized for a question.
Dr. McGee, I appreciate your talking, and I had the exact same concern. When I first read the bill, I thought that's too young. So I actually looked it up on the internet, and the internet says that most schools begin at the 5th or the 6th grade.
They're not required. There's no law that requires the schools, as far as I know,
Right, but
to do anything.
yeah, but it says that most schools do start sex education in the 5th or the 6th grade. Wouldn't you agree?
What I say is they're not required to do that. They may do it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, colleagues.
Representative McGee has spoke against the bill. Would anyone like to speak for the bill? Representative Crawford, you're recognized to speak for the bill.
Hello, friends. What a time we live in, where you can see a baby in a mother's womb. And the technology has gotten so great that you can see it in 4D now. You can see the facial expressions of the baby before the baby's born. I have worked in this field for all my adult life. And everything that just adds to the beauty of birth amazes me. 5th grade. I remember the 5th grade. Do you guys? We didn't have social media. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have a lot of things. We played in the dirt. Do you know my nickname? Getting on the school bus was Dirt, because I was dirty when I got back on the bus. Anyway, we didn't have what the kids have today. Most kids, before they ever get in the 5th grade, know what's going on with sexuality. That's unfortunate. I agree. But it's truth. So they already know. So the only thing this bill would do is show the children the beauty inside a womb. It would show them things that 2 of my best friends never saw, because ultrasound wasn't invented yet, and they had an abortion, and they live with that today. In 1984, the silent scream was made. It was one of the first videos, and it was made by an abortionist, Dr. Nathanson, because he was doing abortions. And then when the ultrasound machine was made, he saw the baby scream when he tore the baby apart. So all this would do is let children know that it really is a human life, and that abortion really is murder, and that 63 million more babies don't need to be aborted in the United States of America. I know it's harsh to use the words. I know people don't like to use the words. And as pro-life people, we hid behind that for a very, very long time. But when you hit 63 million, it's time to quit hiding. So I don't hide anymore. I love people. And in here, I'm sure some have had abortions, or men have been involved. But there's forgiveness for that. And so that's not what this is about. This is just about giving tools to teachers to train the next generation on what human development is and what life is. We could disagree to agree on conception. But the one thing we can't disagree to agree is this is how you were made, and this is how I was made. And I'm glad my mother chose life. Thank you.
Representative Crawford has spoke for the bill. Would anyone like to speak against the bill? Representative Hudson, you're recognized to speak against the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard a lot about what we think fifth graders are doing, and I am privileged to not have to wonder because I have one. Actually, I have two. My son's a fifth grader this year. My daughter, Abby, will be a fifth grader next year. I've talked to several of you about my daughter, Abby. She is a firecracker. She is sweet and kind, and she doesn't know a thing about how babies are conceived. She's not ready for that. She's not old enough. She is 9 years old. That is a decision that my husband and I, as her parents, have made, and a decision that I know because my constituents have been blowing me up about it, that a lot of my constituents have made for their children. And we talk a lot about parent choice in here, but as Doc said, why isn't this an opt-in if parents feel comfortable about it? Every parent in here knows about the missing permission slip, the form that their kid forgot to bring home from school, the things that get lost in backpacks and in lockers and that don't make it. And for something this consequential, showing your child, your 9 or 10-year-old child, a video about fetal development and not being able to participate in that conversation is something that I am just not comfortable with as a parent. Now, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, and so you'll forgive me for that. But as a parent, I wanted to make sure I understood as much as I could about this video. I watched it a few times. And then I started looking into who made it. Live Action is unapologetically a pro-life organization that goes and does undercover sting operations in abortion clinics. They fund a number of different types of activities that, again, I as a parent am uncomfortable in supporting. I don't, these undercover things are weird. These propaganda videos that they have on their website, all of this stuff to me, again, is something that in our family we certainly wouldn't show to our children. And we certainly wouldn't encourage our children to go and seek out, especially at 9 or 10 years old. But the problem with that, in large part, is that word I said, propaganda. Because I remember sitting in this chamber last session and talking an awful lot about propaganda in schools, talking about how parents should have the choice on the types of information that their kids consume, what they hear from their teachers, the curriculum that we are teaching them. And the reason that I know this is propaganda is in the bill, because we can't use any other video. We can't go and get one of the videos that the Mayo Clinic has or that Harvard and Stanford medical schools put out. The Children's Hospital in St. Louis has one. Khan Academy has one. There are hundreds of videos by nonpartisan organizations that we could access and tell our teachers, hey, show them this. Show them this video. Let them see the wonder of fertilization all the way through to birth. But let's do it in a way that isn't clearly volatile and isn't clearly meant to promote a certain agenda, which is certainly what this does. I also know that that's true because in Tennessee, when they passed it, they pulled out the reference to live action and they just described the type of video that the kids could see. And they did that in large part because the Republicans, the majority in that body, recognized that what they were going to do was likely to be a First Amendment violation. So then I kept looking. West Virginia did not pass this bill. The chair of the Judiciary Committee, which heard the bill in West Virginia, is named Charles Trump, which could be confusing. But anyway, Trump said, I have a concern that this is across the line of the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. If we put language in a bill that forces schools throughout the state to show children a video which asserts that life begins at conception, even though I agree with that, I think it is an imposition of what is fundamentally a religious or spiritual belief. Now, we heard a lot about religion in the presentation, too. We talked a lot about people's faith and why they believe in pro-life causes. And one of the things that happens when you're talking about a constitutional question is that the court will look at the intent of the bill. And it is clear from this record and from the record that was created in committee that part of the intent of the bill has a religious bent to it. But even if the Establishment Clause wasn't implicated in this, the First Amendment certainly is, because we are using this one video, remember this video brought by Live Action, an unapologetically political organization, and we are forcing teachers to show this video, not any other video, not any video of an animation of what it looks like in the womb, but this video by Live Action, an unapologetic political organization. Arkansas has been here before. In 1968, we as a body passed a law that forbade teachers from teaching about evolution. This was at the time shortly after what was referred to as the Tennessee Scopes monkey trials. The Supreme Court heard that case, and the Supreme Court ruled against the state of Arkansas and said in part that we cannot require teachers to say or do something because of a religious or political bent, because of their First Amendment right to speech. The court said judicial interposition in the operation of the public school system of the nation raises problems requiring care and restraint. Our courts have not failed to apply the First Amendment's mandate in our educational system where essential to safeguard the fundamental values of freedom of speech and inquiry and belief. There are several other cases in this line. They go on through the mid-70s and into the 80s, and the Supreme Court has always come to the same conclusion. We cannot mandate political speech in our public school systems. We cannot force our teachers to say these things just because it is something that perhaps the majority of this body prefers politically or even religiously. I know we also talked about the fact, well, there's doctors who have decided or who helped make this video. So I looked them up too. Dr. Donna Harrison, former president of the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists, whose testimony on abortion has been discredited by multiple courts as, quote, inaccurate and incomplete, quote, generally at odds with solid medical evidence, quote, exaggerated or distorted, and, quote, shaped primarily by the position she is advocating for at the moment. That is from a case coming out of the Eastern District of Arkansas in 2019, and was affirmed in part by the Eighth Circuit, not necessarily known as a court full of liberal squishes. Other courts, I've got 2 pages of courts that have found that some version of this. Her, quote, statements were contradicted and disputed by record evidence. The studies she cited for a variety of reasons didn't support her position. There are 2 pages of courts who have stricken her testimony because of the fact that she is an unreliable witness. Many of these cases were actually right here in Arkansas. Tara Sander Lee and Katrina Firth were also on this video. They are both part of the Charlotte Lozier Institute, which is a pro-life institute. It is the research arm of the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America organization. Michelle Cretella, the president of the American College of Pediatricians, the Society for Adolescent Health and Medicine, called one of her Daily Signal articles vitriolic deception based on, quote, medical omissions, circumstantial facts, hateful interpretation, and peripheral context. Cretella said, getting the message out is our duty and privilege. She goes on to say, we've read the book. The book is capitalized, so of course she's referring to the Bible. We know we're on the right side of history. Again, this is religious speech. We have an Establishment Clause question. Dr. Jeffrey Barrows. Dr. Barrows hasn't been licensed to practice medicine in over a decade. These are the people that made this video. This was not a video made by the medical establishment. It was not a video even made by people whose testimony is considered valid enough to stand up in a court. So going back to my initial question and my concern, why this video? Why not any other video from one of these sources, from Harvard or Stanford or the children's hospitals in St. Louis? I bet UAMS has one if we look for it. Why this one? And the only answer I can come up with is because it is propaganda. And we talked a lot about keeping propaganda out of our schools, and I would hope that as a body we would not go back on that promise to teachers and students. I'll be a no on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hudson has spoke against the bill. Would anyone like to speak for the bill? Representative Rose, you're recognized to speak for the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. It's been an interesting debate. I'm always appreciative to hear different sides of discussion on different issues, and so this is definitely one for discussion. I just wanted to make a couple of quick points. In the 93rd legislative session, SB 655 was introduced by a House Democrat and a House Senator, and it was designed to institute sexual education in our public education system. And starting at the 5th grade, it was going to introduce information with regards to sexual health, positive body image, and family and social norm, including dating, healthy relationships, consent, sexual assault, and violence prevention. I think we could continue a great conversation about sex education for all ages. And as a representative before me mentioned, I'm also a father of a 5th grade girl. Lots of great and interesting conversations you have with children at that age. One of the conversations that I'm fortunate we haven't had to dive into, that a great number of families do have to dive into with regards to sex education, is exposure to pornography at a young age. And the average age that a child is first exposed to pornography in a Common Sense Media survey is 12. Of those children exposed to pornography, 40% of it takes place at school during the school day, and 15% of those are under the age of 10. So they're seeing content they shouldn't see that'll be awful for the formation of sexual education in their lives. And a video like this that shows purely the development of a child in the womb will be beneficial, will be educational, and is similar in respect to that 2021 Senate bill that would have also required videos in the public schools for fetal development. And so based on just those simple facts and the content of the bill and the video, I'll be voting yes, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
Representative Rose has spoke for the bill. Would anyone like to speak against the bill? Anyone like to speak for the bill? Representative Bentley, recognized to close for your bill.
Thank you, callers, for your time, and I guess I'm going to go over this again. I showed the video to Secretary Olivia in my office and watched him and said, what time do you think we should start this video? He said, we'll line up with Lawrence perfectly in 5th grade. 5th grade's a good time to start, and he's seen it from beginning to end. Dr. Kay Chandler, our Surgeon General and OB-GYN certified physician, she's a member of APLOG, the Americans Pro-Life OB-GYNs, and she fully supports this bill. She fully supports the video. She fully believes it accurately displays what happens in the womb with human development. And I think I'll take Dr. Kay Chandler's voice over others. I know her personally. I've shown the movie and the video to Governor Sanders in her office and has absolutely no opposition to this bill at all. She's a pro-life governor, one of the best we've had, for sure. So, again, I will say, Live Action has granted a non-exclusive license to resource the educational purposes in perpetuity at no cost to the school. They will provide a resource that has been unbranded. There'll be nothing about Live Action. Live Action will receive no money from this, and there's nothing about Live Action on the video, period. The bill is about teaching children the basic facts about human development in an approachable way. Children deserve unvarnished truth. The resource does not talk about sex or mandate specific teaching on the procreative act. There's nothing preventing a teacher from showing another video if the school chooses to do so. They're also going to see an ultrasound. Doesn't have to stop. We can show videos about moms and about other things, but this is just a 3-minute video to get the discussion started and get the truth in the classroom. We want children to understand the truth, the beauty, and the wonder of human life and development in the womb. I will admit that it clearly dispels the lie that it's just a clump of cells. And that's the lie that's been told to our students for a long time. And it's not the truth. And they need to hear the truth. And with that, I'd appreciate a good vote. Thank you.
Representative Bentley is closed for the bill. Representative McGee, for what purpose?
Respectfully, Mr. Chairman.
I'll hear your motion.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move that we re-refer this bill back to committee for further study.
That's a proper motion. It is debatable. You're recognized to come to the well and explain your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I've not done that before on anyone's bill, and I didn't intend to do it today. Overall, I like the concept of this bill. I really do. I like the video. I've watched it several times. I don't like it because of the dates, but, you know, sometimes around here, we can go 2 weeks or 3 weeks and get the dates wrong anyway. So I don't know that that's the real significant part of the bill. The part of the bill that I would like it to go back to committee so the committee can open this thing up a little bit. There are wonderful, go home tonight and look at YouTube. There are wonderful videos that are as good as this one that include the mother, include all the things that the mom's going through. Give the schools a choice. I don't like it being in statute that this is the only option that the school has. It would be better to me that that local school district has the option to pick whatever. The Department of Ed could develop the criteria and say what you have to put in it, or what they could watch. Let the Department of Ed determine a list of 3 or 4 or 5 of them. Let the schools look at them. If y'all go tonight on YouTube and look at them, there's some great ones. So I just don't like tying it to one video, although I'm not opposed to it completely if this bill comes back, and that's the only one that's on there. I'm probably going to vote for it, okay? But I would prefer that they go back to committee to study it, look at it, open it up to other videos. I really am opposed to 5th grade education. I've had 5th graders, 9 years old, watching this. I don't like opt-out. It should be opt-in. I'm open to any questions, but that's kind of where I'm at on it, and I would ask that it be re-referred. So what's it going to do? It's going to slow this thing down maybe a week. They're going to take it back to committee. They'll rehash it. The committee can pass it back out just like it is if they want, and then I'll be a no vote. I want to be a yes vote on it. I really do. Thank you.
Representative Ray, for what purpose?
Question.
Recognized.
Representative McGee, this bill has already been to committee, and from what I understand, it was a fairly lengthy discussion. So my question is, if you felt so strongly that this bill needed an amendment, why did you not offer an amendment or have someone else on the committee offer an amendment when it was in committee?
That's a very good question, because I didn't know about the bill till it had come out of committee. Perhaps I should have been better informed. Thank you.
Representative McGee has explained the motion. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? Representative McGee is closed for the motion. The question before the House is a motion to re-refer House Bill 1180 back to committee. Prepare the machine, Madam Clerk. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Cast up the ballot. With a vote of 21 yeas, 58 nays, and 3 present, the motion has failed. Members, the question before the House is the passage of House Bill 1180. Prepare the machine, Madam Clerk. Oh, excuse me. Members, we do have a pair on the desk. Representative Austin McCullum votes yes. Representative Nicole Clowney votes no. This was witnessed and attested to by Representative Ryan Rose. Representative Clowney is the present member. Are there any procedural objections to the pair? Seeing none, please do not vote either of these two voting machines. Prepare the machine, Madam Clerk. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Cast up the ballot, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 70 yeas, 18 nays, and 0 present, the bill is passed.